Hi, Patricia. Thank you. Oh, my voice. Okay. Hi, Patricia. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm looking forward to getting your feedback on your thoughts on the Marriage Saver program. So, Patricia, let me ask you this question. What were some of the challenges you faced before we started to work together?
My challenge was with my marriage, dealing with my husband's infidelity. Um, he had he had the affair a week and a half postpartum, so I found out 3 weeks after having my baby. So really dealing with that postpartum and the infidelity was kind of like a double whammy. So it's very honestly, I could say that I was very unstable. Like I was in crisis mode. Um, I had lost my identity. I lost my self-worth. I was losing precious time with my newborn due to my state of mind. And I'm really not sure how I actually functioned at that time. All I knew is I was using the scraps of me to take care of myself on some level, but mostly for my children who were all under 5 years old. So I honestly don't know how I did that at that time, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. You've come so far, Erin. You really have.
So proud of you. Let me ask
Ask you this one. As you said, you were in that state of like, you didn't know who you were anymore, just feeling that desperation. How come you decided to work with me? How come you decided to join the Marriage Saver program?
I didn't know what to do. I looked into a therapist and it it was once a week. It wasn't helping me much and I could cry anywhere, honestly. So her office at home, it didn't matter to me. I was searching for this type of community on Facebook something, so there's Facebook has everything. And it was one of the first pages that popped up. And I just clicked. And I think I was only on the original group for about a week or so, and then I reached out because I was struggling and I needed something more than what the world was offering me at that time. And even as a mental health professional myself, I really wasn't finding that peace, that constructive healing that I felt I needed. So this really felt very hands-on, very involved in something that I needed, and I needed something on a daily basis, not just once a week. Yeah.
And it is really helpful when you have access and support every single day, like Monday to Friday, to hold your
Mhm.
hand on this journey. And you brought up that interesting point about therapy. Tell me the difference between the work within the Marriage Saver program and therapy.
Well, with the therapy, and I guess it always depends on what therapist you have and their approach. Um, but with therapy, it was once a week, and unless there was an emergency, there was very little direction. Like I could sit in an office, like I said, and cry for an hour, and that's relieving, but it's a band-aid. I could cry on the phone with my girlfriends, and all I got really was go take a walk or journal, and not really specifics on really getting down to the nitty-gritty. Barely any questions, and it was just me talking and crying for an hour. And I was like, is this what therapy really is? Like, this is not what I thought it would be. And it really just left me in a worser state, and I had nowhere to go to after that. You're,
A therapist as well. What type of therapy do you practice?
I practice crisis intervention, so I work in a hospital setting, um, which is very different than like normal therapy, but I've done individual therapy in the past, like as the therapist. And that's why I've always struggled with being an individual therapist is how do you make this constructive? How do you make this beneficial every time your client sits across from you? And that has always been my struggle as a professional. So when I saw this was like, wow, this is someone who's really there, like every day, giving constructive feedback. Like, okay, this is how you're feeling. This is what you got to do. This is okay. Like just the neuroscience background to it. And I've taken neuroscience courses. That has always been a very interest. have a model of a brain somewhere in my, but that has always been very interesting to me. I know all about neuroscience, so this really targeted really what speaks to me. Now I'm going to say on the other hand, I was always skeptical about hypnotherapy. But I had only seen like the chintzy hypnotherapy that you pay to see a show or something like that. So I never really bought into it. But I really let the scientific approach drive me to try something new and different. Which is exactly what this was, and I honestly think it saved me. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And tell me a little bit about how the hypnosis process and the Marriage Saver program differs from that kind of view that you had hypnosis was, the kind of entertainment show. How is this different?
Think, well, when you go to like a show or that type of hypnotherapy, you're in a room full of people. It's not private. It's not personal at times. Like I even went on the stage and they did it to me, and it didn't work because you're too focused on being on stage and feeling how silly all of this is, because it really is. It puts on a silly facade about the whole thing, which is why I think a lot of people may veer away from hypnotherapy, because they've always known it to just seem silly and entertainment when it can really be so much more. Yeah, the one
Thing too is I've also been on stage and it didn't work for me, is that they almost look like they're out of control, like that they're really not even there, that they pretend like they're in their underwear, but they're not actually in their underwear. It's really bizarre to me because I've never had a client that I could pretend that she was in her underwear and she actually thought she was in her underwear. So I wonder how much of it is people actually faking it or just playing along with it.
right, exactly. Excellent. Our rates.
So, oh, okay. So there's lots of program benefits that come with the Marriage Saver program. I should say inclusions. What were your favorite inclusions? Like we have the daily support, you have the portal. Some of my clients have access to me to do 90-minute sessions. There's some monthly check-ins. What did you find the most beneficial?
I really found using the Voxer, the daily conversations, is one thing to like talk to your friend and they kind of just give you that biased approach and often very negative, like about your spouse, your partner. And that's not really what you need, because if I'm looking to save my marriage, I don't want anyone talking down to me about my marriage. So the Voxer support kind of met me where I was at every day and helped me reframe the situation in a more positive way. And really, it wasn't even very much focused on all about my marriage. It was about getting to know me on that daily basis and figuring out what I needed as an individual, not a partner of somebody else. Did it help? Of course it did. And there are often directions and perspectives to keep in mind. And I really felt like even those perspectives were very unbiased, but also true to what I wanted, which was my marriage to work. So I felt heard. I felt heard for the first time. Therapy, I really didn't feel heard. Talking to your friends, I didn't feel heard. And it just became a burden to talk to my friends at some point. So I stopped talking to them. So I finally had someone to hear me every day, because every day there was something guaranteed. And I didn't feel like a burden to anybody at that point. And I was actively getting help and being heard. Well, that's the one.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. All right, next question I have for you. What have been some of your results when it comes to the program? I know you talked about how you didn't even know yourself at the very beginning. I know there's trust issues with your husband, boundaries constantly being crossed, communication between the two of you, intimacy had been challenged, your own confidence, fear, constant fear of, is this happening again? So tell me a little bit about, yeah, what were the results you got from the program?
I can't even, the woman that I was after I found out, I was this helpless, directionless, this fearful, preoccupied with my thoughts person. Honestly, I never imagined myself being this person right now. I couldn't visualize her. I never thought that I would be okay again. So by doing this, I feel like I tapped into this strength that I never knew I had, and this worthiness, the worthiness of even having that type of strength within me. Um, I mean, just going back to like, I had just had a baby. I felt like I was stripped of everything and made me question everything that I was before that. So I felt like I was starting at square one and developing myself as a human being and getting to know myself, not let alone my husband. But, you know, in the end, my husband he started seeing changes within me. At first he said he said that you're very crass. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, you're just saying things. And I was like, I feel good just saying things. I feel good just not holding back. Like if I'm angry, I'm going to be angry, but I'm going to have control over myself. And that was a big challenge that I had, was my anger at one point was getting away with me. And I was verbally lashing out, and I didn't know what to do with that. And now I am able to process what I'm thinking, make sure that it's not hurtful, and that I'm taking those moments, those mindful moments, to let out what I need to in a way where it can be a healthy conversation. You know, we went from not being able to have conversations, really, we never really got deep in our marriage, to having verbally volatile conversations, to now having these rational approach to one another where we can really sit down. And for me, that's intimacy, communication on that level. And that's what I felt we always lacked, that type of non-physical intimacy. How has
Trust improved?
I have
come a long way. I did lose control over myself, where I was looking at his things all the time. You know, he agreed to have me do certain things for my reassurance purposes, but I was checking every day. I was checking my phone multiple times a day, even at work, and it's consuming in at least time. And I look back now and I realize, what else could I have done with that time? And, you know, I'm sad I lost that time being so preoccupied, but now I have my moments, but I have more control over that situation. Those moments used to spiral me out of control, and I would make very unhealthy decisions that would upset him, that really didn't make me proud of myself. And now I feel like I do have that control. Actually, it just happened yesterday. He had his computer open, and I went to turn his location back on his computer, and I just sat back in the chair and I thought about it. And for whatever reason, I just pressed X and I walked away. I didn't want to succumb to that. I imagined what would transpire if I did that for myself and for him, and I would not have had that control. I would have not had that trust months ago. And I allowed myself to trust him in that moment. How was
The Marriage Saver program improved your communication?
I mean, like I was saying before, I wasn't able to have those healthy conversations in a controlled way. And he struggled with communication too. That was one of his big things. And the more I was willing to hear him and control my responses and not make him feel, because my responses often were very negative, and I turned it around on him a lot, and he can't heal if I'm that way. So he started opening up more, and sometimes he even says to me now, he's like, do you want me to say that? Was that okay to say? Am I saying too much now? And he's like, am I just unloading? And I said, no, like, we need to just say it all. And now he's like, just this spewing out feelings and emotions and issues without holding back. And that's what we needed in our partner. Yeah.
It's so beautiful when it flows that way. It's wonderful. How about, has the Marriage Saver program helped with fear? Because I know at the beginning you're just so scared. Are they still talking? Are they seeing each other? How's that?
Yeah. And that was hard for me because he still sees her because he works with her. Um, I had a lot of fear. And luckily for me, he only sees her 1 day a week, so Tuesdays are exceptionally hard days for me. And, even today's a Tuesday, and he even asked me about it because we're communicating. But, I was always afraid, I was always afraid every day because he was texting her every day before work. Um, and I was afraid of the future. I was afraid I couldn't see my future, that it was changing all before me. I was afraid of what was going to happen to me. And now, we've come so far and I had to get to that point where no matter what the outcome was going to be, that I was going to be okay. And once I resolved that, the fear started to dissolve because I knew I was going to survive no matter what happened because I was feeling strong again. I was feeling worthy. And once you start feeling those things, I feel like there's no room for fear at that point.
No, there isn't. There's a funny way, like the fear can come in a little bit, but you can combat it so quickly. Like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna be about it, but for us, like, I can combat, like, any of those fears that pop into my head, and I do such a much better job of just stopping it where it is, and I don't let it take control. I think at the end of the day, I'm able to have control over myself again. My fears, my thoughts aren't controlling me. Was your
Happiness, like scale of 1 to 10, 10 being so happy. Like when you first started, where were you on that scale out of 10?
in terms of happiness, I was a 9. Uh, Now I'm a 9 now. I was a 2. Uh, I, and just thinking about when I just had my baby, and I should have been so happy, and I wasn't. I wasn't happy holding my newborn. I wasn't feeling joy. And now I do. And I used to get reminders of when I held her, when I looked at her and felt sorry for myself and truly unhappy and questioning everything when I held my own daughter. Now I really don't even have those feelings anymore when I hold her, and I am happy. I am happy. I'm gonna say I'm an 8, 9, 8, 8.5.
It can
Because,
fluctuate, right? It's about if it goes down a
yeah,
little bit, you have the skills to bring it up. So yeah, 8.5, 9.
right.
Because I know I always have work to do. I don't think I'm in the most happiest I've ever been in my whole life. But I would have never imagined myself out of 6 when I first started this program. So for me to say an 8 is kind of mind-blowing.
And we've known each other now 4 months. I believe we started 4 months ago. When was D-Day before we started? How many months did we have before you started working with me?
So to July, August. So it was about 3.5 months, I want to say.
My daughter's 8 months old now, so
It was kind of like halfway. And I did regular therapy and started marriage therapy, within a month and a half of D-Day. Um, yeah, yeah.
So you kind of did some alternative therapies, maybe more mainstream, see a therapist, couples counseling for a few months. You found me. We worked together for 4 months. And it's like, are you surprised by the change you had? Like, are you, like you said you thought you were going to be like, you'd be happy if you were a 6 out of 10, and now you're kind of 8.5, 9 most days. Are you surprised with how far you came?
I am.
I'm in disbelief. Like I said, I would have never imagined being here. I couldn't see this person all those months ago. And when I think about how far I've come, and I'm actually enjoying getting to know myself a bit, and figuring out what I want and prioritizing myself, and I never did that. And I'm very grateful that I was able to find myself. I, I really was so lost. I've never been in such a dark place before, and you can really get stuck there. and I was feeling that consume me. And I knew that I had to make that change. I knew I had to do something more. Um, and you were so open to communicating with me and letting me feel comfortable even before I fully committed to the program. And I think that's what really, I'm not going to say sold me on it. That's what really drew me to just commit to doing this process, was that sense of being heard and cared for, even before that type of formal commitment. And I just feel so grateful for that comfort that you provided and continued on after I joined.
Wonderful. I had that connection as well when we first met. I felt that connection instantly. Curious though, did you have any doubts starting? Because it's such a different method, like really working on the kind of the hypnosis to get so relaxed, go back to memories of the infidelity, and sometimes childhood or adolescent memories come up too that you didn't realize you're holding on to, like times where you didn't feel enough years ago. Were you at all like skeptical or doubtful of the process just because you'd never experienced it or probably didn't know anyone else who'd done this?
Yeah, this was, no one could really relate to this. The closest thing in therapy to this is EMDR, which is still so different. Um, I'm going to honestly say the day I did my first hypno journey, the to you, I was like, I don't even know if this is gonna work. And I sat down and did it, and I cried through the whole thing. And I know I was no stranger to crying, but it was the first time I cried, and it didn't hurt more to cry. If that makes sense. Um, and when I was done, I was, I felt lighter, I felt lifted. But I did have those doubts, because I had those doubts about hypnojourney to begin with. And it really allowed me, and to say that on the first try, I was very skeptical. That really allowed me to let go of all those fears about, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? Because I was fearful that the whole program wouldn't work, and then where would I be? But I think at that level that I was on, I was also just so deeply wanting something. And honestly, this program was everything that my body was telling me I needed. Yeah.
I'm so thankful to have done this with you. I really am. And I'm curious, how would you describe a hypno journey? Like, how would you describe this? And that's like that deep meditation that you do based on fear. You do the fear hypno journey, or if you can't trust, you do the trust hypno journey. Or if you're really stuck in anger, you do the rut stuck hypno journey. Tell me, how would you describe a hypno journey?
I think it allowed for that time and peace to really look into yourself and really think about what was going on at that moment and how you felt. I'm a mom of 3. I don't get that time, but making that time was important, and it really just created this space within me to really visualize that healing. And you start going to these hypno journeys deeply wanting to feel that change or movement within yourself. And that desire really is so strong in digging up those deeply personal things. And I've often even had hypno journeys where I was like anticipating what would happen, and then it would surprise me. Like all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, I'm really thinking about something in my adolescence. And then all of a sudden my thoughts go to my early childhood, and I was like, whoa, okay. So you lose that control over what you think you know, but you're, I don't know what to call it. Yeah.
A lot of times, like you'll go a hypno journey thinking you're going to be working on, I can't trust my husband today because he's on his phone all the time and he put his phone upside down. And all of a sudden we're talking about trust, maybe from a boyfriend in high school. You're like, there's been other times I haven't been able to trust. So you think you're going to go into a hypno journey, the trust hypno journey, with one thing, but when you're so relaxed, your mind's like, uh-oh, we're doing this one instead. And I don't think anyone's ever shocked with what comes up, you're just like, oh, I forgot about that memory and I'm still
Yeah.
holding on to some of the pain from it. And you get to release the pain from past times, which then help you heal in the present.
Yeah. Yeah. And the visualizations were so helpful. I started at a point where I couldn't even visualize anything before I started, and to be given that opportunity to visualize like my authentic self, my true self, and find ways of drawing myself closer to that was so crucial, because I think about her all the time now, and I never did. It's kind of like this goal I have every day is to be that woman. And I never had that before. And I never knew what I was striving for, even before D-Day. I feel like this is something that I needed even before that event. Because I don't think I ever saw her before.
Mhm. Oh, it's so beautiful when you can connect with her. It's so empowering. It's light. It's amazing to connect with your true self. Also, just curious. So let's imagine that there's another woman watching this and she's in a
Mhm.
similar position as you. She found out her husband cheated. Like you'd take you back to when you had that newborn. For someone who's just found out that their husband's cheated, what advice do you have for them?
This is not okay now, I would tell her. And it's okay for it to not be okay. But also, with time and patience with yourself, it starts getting better. You just have to find a way to keep moving forward. And it's hard when you feel like you just wanted to stay fetal position all day. And it's hard just to go, but you can. There is strength inside of us, inside of everybody, that we don't even know we have. I didn't know I had it. And you can find it. It's there. It's there. And this is just a challenge in our life that we'll get through. A blip in the radar. In the grand scheme of things, we think about how long our lives are, and these moments don't define us, but it's also how we come out of it and how we come out stronger. It's the strength that defines us, not the hurt, not the pain, not the fear. It's our strength.
His infidelity broke you. Do you feel like you're a better person since, and maybe broken's not the right word, but are you a better version of yourself since the infidelity? Are there any gifts that have come from his infidelity, this horrific event?
Yeah.
The main gift I see is the relationship I have with my husband. You'd think that something like this would completely break that. Like an irreparable break, and it's not. And I think that's what a lot of people who don't understand, unless you've lived through it, that they don't understand that. Like, it can be fixed and it could be better. And I tell my husband all the time, our first marriage, that's broken. We picked up the pieces and we just made something new. So this is now our second marriage, we call it now. Well, at least I call it, he thinks it's silly. But this is, and I'm repairable. I like me better. I like me better now. I feel like I have a voice, almost like I have less inhibitions, and I feel more like myself. Nothing's holding me back. Like nothing can hold me back now. I've seen the of it. Like life can only blossom and be better, and I don't want to compare things to that, but if I could come out of that and get the strength from that, I feel like I could conquer anything right now. Like, I just feel like I could do anything that I set my mind to, because I built myself up better. And I don't think I even could have done that before the infidelity something did shift, something did change within me, within our marriage, within my husband, and we're completely different people for the good. Mm.
Next question. Some women would say a marriage can't be repaired unless your husband is actively doing the work, that he's actively taking steps to really repair the marriage. Do you think a wife has the ability to be the catalyst for change, to start that process for saving her marriage without her husband's full buy-in?
I believe so. When I started, my husband was more out the door than in. We were talking about separation. We were talking about divorce. I mean, I pretty much knew he wasn't in love with me, and that wasn't a decision I had control over. So all I had to do was really focus on me. Like, what could I do with that? If someone's halfway out the door, you're not going to drag them through it. They have to be willing to. So working on me. And as I saw my own progression, it really helped him proceed on. Even with couples therapy, he would sit there and then say, what is this really doing? Like, every time he goes, this is really helping. This is really helping you. And at times I would be like, I don't know. I don't know. Because I don't feel any different. Every session was like, I don't know. But after every hypno journey that I did, after every day that I spoke to you, I knew what the shift was. I knew what the change was. I knew what I was focusing on for that day. And as I grew within myself, he was noticing it. He was noticing it the whole time. And I think he was drawn to me again. You can't make someone love you. You can't force someone to love you. That's something that they feel from within. And I think once you start showing your true self, people respond to that. And maybe it was just a reminder of who I was before that he couldn't see anymore. But honestly, to this day, I was like, what did therapy do for you? And he goes, I don't know, I just talked. So I was like, okay, well, this wasn't, I didn't do this to heal us. Like, that didn't become the focus of this program. Honestly, in the beginning, maybe a little bit, but it really did shift at some point where I was like, yeah, this really isn't about my marriage. This is about me. And as I healed, I was able to give more of myself.
Oh, you should be so proud of yourself. In all honesty, if we could rank your marriage or how strong, how good your marriage was when we first started. So let's rank it. Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being amazing when you first started the program. 0, your marriage was in the dumps. Where was it when you started, and where is it now on that scale?
I'm a big fan of decimals, like 0.5. Like, pretty low, but not the lowest, but definitely, yeah, 0.5. I thought it was over. I honestly thought there's nothing that could be done. And then
In all honesty, how would you rank or rate your marriage now out of 10?
Yeah, I would say 9. I would say 9. And honestly, that I just asked my husband that question too, and he told me like 9.5. So that, if that doesn't say, yeah, but yeah, and I never met, and I think I would never give myself a 10, because I'm a work in progress. I still have a lot of healing to do, and I know that, but I made it through the worst of it. And now it's for maintaining myself. Yeah.
I'm just so happy for you. Let's leave it at this. Any final thoughts about the Marriage Saver program, yourself, advice for women? How do you want to finish this off?
Honestly, I feel like I was saved. When I truly think about how I was when I started the program. I don't even let myself think about that because I'll just cry all the time. So, but I was so lost. I was lost. I didn't think it would ever be possible for me. And I just feel like everything that this program had to offer, it was just so worth it. It was just, for me to sit here, it was worth it. I didn't know I was gonna make it. And I don't want to say that in a grim way, but I couldn't see this. And now I am like, I have visualized myself, and that's who I want to be. And I just imagine being that terribly sad puddle of tears on the floor when I could have stayed there and gotten lost there, and this didn't let that happen. I don't think you would have let that happen. But I have never felt so supported and guided, and that's what I needed. Someone to guide me out of that deepest, darkest place that I never even thought was possible in my entire life. To be here, caring for myself and nurturing myself and loving myself and being able to do those things for my family. And it's trickled over. It's trickled over into all aspects of my life. It's trickled into my career. It's made me a motivated person, and I just can't be more grateful.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's been an honor to be on this journey with you. It absolutely has. And holding your hand every step of the way, it's been a blessing. And I just want to say, I'm so proud of you. You've come so far and you've worked so hard. This isn't just I can do this for you. You have to do the work. You have to be able to dedicate the time to go inward and have that awareness of yourself. And you did it. You stepped up and look at the results you've got. So I'm so proud of you. So thank you. And